perception was, and it got me thinking, why is it that way? Why don't Africans like African Americans? Can someone explain that to me? Why is that?
American over African American because I'm not African. I don't know nothing about African culture, and I'm from the South. We do mac and cheese, chicken, and crab boils. Okay, I don't see them. Do they do crab boils in Africa? No. Just because they have crab boils in some parts in Africa does not mean that it's not a Southern American dish. Do we hyphenate African with any of you guys' nationality? Can I go to Jamaica and see you guys calling yourself African Jamaicans? For a long time, we have been aiding in our own genocide, okay, by calling everybody black. Everybody's not black. Everybody's not one of us. And I get black as a race, but at some point, we need to make a distinction. What's the issue with black Americans having their own culture? We have our own culture here in America. We're different from the rest of you and the rest of the world. Can I go to Africa or Jamaica and claim to be Jamaican? No, I cannot. But any person that looks like me can come to America and claim to be one of us and take our accolades and accomplishments away just because they look like us. Like, take the president, take Obama and Kamala, for example. Kamala is of Indian and Jamaican descent, but she's called the first African American vice president. You're right. She has no black American lineage in this country, and neither does Barack Obama. Y'all low-key still buying into, like, slavery and stuff by not calling yourself an American. Okay, you're not an African American. Like, we've been here, at this point, we've been here for like hundreds and hundreds of years. What is African? I don't know nothing about Africa. I can't name not one African dish. I don't know none of those languages they speak down there in Africa. How am I African American? Elon Musk is a white man, but he's from South Africa. So how am I African American if Elon Musk is African American? I have nothing against Africans, nothing against immigrants. I'm obviously of African descent. But the point is the classification they give us in America as African Americans when we've never been to Africa. I really enjoy her honesty. You know what I'm saying? Yes. She's stating the fact. To some people, she's 100% right, and I won't dispute that. But you know, one thing is Africa is for Africans. You understand? We have a culture. We are cultured. We have respect. You know, so we don't need someone like her. This is one of the reasons why some black Americans are being treated the way they are treated in the US. They are trying to attach themselves to the whites, and the whites don't even want them. So calling them African American is trying to give them some identity because they don't have one. But someone is here trying to distance herself from it. Why some of them are tracing their roots back to Africa and embracing their origin, some of them are distancing themselves. So we don't want people like this. So sis, you are American. Please, we don't need you here. As for the crab boys, it's a West African cuisine. Maybe you should go and find out more before you come here to say it. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So I am a proud African. We are all proud Africans, but we don't need to confuse genders, those who don't even know where they belong. Thank you and bye.
Lady, I suggest your mouth, especially on people you don't want to be associated with. How do you speak about Elion Musk being an African? He's not an African. He's not an African. He has said it himself. His parents are not Africans. And we are telling you that he's not Africans. He's not African. He's not. So I don't understand where you got this, he's African American from. Hello. I suggest you break your mouth a bit. You are trying so hard to associate yourself with the people who gave you the term African. It wasn't us. We did not say we claim you as African. Go take it up with your government, your people there in the States. I mean, even the Italians, American, identify as Italian. You know, the Spanish identify with the Spanish culture. It's only you want to be, you know, all American, yada, and, you know, the rest are just like, we are Italian American, we are Spanish American, we are wada. But you want to be Black American. You want to be black American and then associate yourself with a white American, which don't want you. They don't want you. We're trying. We are trying to accommodate you. But people like you make it very, 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 very hard for some Africans to be very accepting because of the level of ignorance. What kind of level of ignorance is this? We don't claim you. I feel like it's an identity crisis that we should be talking about. I don't speak them damn languages. Are you mad? Are you mad that we speak a language that you don't understand? Are you mad that your history was stolen from you? Are you mad that you don't know your people? Are you mad at that? Who are you mad at? You should be directing your anger to the people who captured you, or rather yet captured your people, since you say you've been here for hundreds and hundreds of years. Okay? Okay? Please.
My African friend explained to me that a lot of Africans don't like African Americans, and that's simply a difference in culture. So let me explain how I discovered this. My friend and me were sitting down at an IHOP at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I invited him out. He said, "Thank you. I appreciate you. You
Stop
are
you,
very
the
kind."
accent
I
is
said, "No
very
problem, bro.
horrible.
I appreciate you." He says, "So you are from Africa. Why you don't have the accent?" I said, "Well, I've been here long enough to where I kind of adapted a Midwestern accent, and I kind of lost the African accent." He said, "Okay, okay, okay, I understand. I
They don't
understand.
say that,
Okay."
but okay.
So we were talking, and he said, "Oh, look at those hood rats over there." And I said, "The hood rats?" And there's a bunch of black people just being loud and rowdy. And I said, "Well, oh, they're not really hood. It's just they're us. They're black people like us." And he said, "You know how it is." And sadly, I knew exactly what he was talking about. You see, he then began to explain to me, like just in general, what I had thought and known for quite some time. He said, "Africans do not know African Americans at all. They do not like them. Let me watch this." He said, "Hello, brothers," and he signaled the hood rats that he calls them over there. He said, "What's up, cuz? Cracking?" Then he said, "Do you know who the African president is?" And he says, "Nah, I have no idea. I don't know, Shabuki, like," and he like did some clicking noise, like, "Oh, that boy, like," and he was like,
African president.
"Yeah, thank you, brother. You all right?" He said, "Yeah, I know my African history. I'm from the motherland. Peace up, word up." He says, "Word up." See, they are idiots. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, yeah." He says, he starts explaining to me about how they don't know African history. They only know African American history. That's all they know. It's a difference. He said American Africans are not good. And I'm like, "What do you mean not good?" He said they're not us. They're not cultured like us. They are not us. And then I asked, I said, why would like some Africans come over here because they want to be American? Well, they get American money, send it over to their family. Asians do this too. And there's a bunch of Asians in Africa for some reason. And there's like a little subsection of Asian people, like Chinese people in Africa because there's no population laws. It's a whole thing. He was explaining all this lore to me. I didn't know. I didn't know anything about this. I was confused. I was like, "Are you sure this is real?" And he said, "As far as I know, this is real. This is what I know. I go by what I know. That is what I am." Then he started talking like homophobic and all this other stuff. And he said, "Well, think about it. Most older black people here even are homophobic. You know when they say, 'Is he this?'" And I said, "Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that. But the newer generation is coming out and changing that." He says, "No, newer generation African Americans, a majority are homophobic. Same with Caucasus people. Caucasus people. They are also homophobic." And I said, "Okay, all right, okay, fair, fair." And I was just learning how his perception was, and it got me thinking, why is it that way? Why don't Africans like African Americans? Can someone explain that to me? Why is that?
First, before I share the other part, which will be addressed by another African, will give you a detailed information. I just want to address a few things. First, there's no such thing as African president. Okay, there are countries in Africa, so we don't have an African president. You could have told the story without the fake accent. It's horrible. It's really, really horrible. It's predictable. African American, what they think we sound like. Even the West Africans don't sound like that. I know I cannot make how they talk about how their accents sound like. That's why I can just tell a story. without doing the extra stuff. It's so unnecessary. Like I said, there are about 54 countries in Africa. So learn that. Start from there. Yes, there's homophobia in Africa because of the lineage of colonizers. We had no problems with it. When I talk to my people, my side of my people in the south of Africa, when I talked to the Pedi and some of the Zulu people, they knew such people existed. Like, we are not dumb. We just did not have a label for many of these things. And some of these things have been pushed onto us forcefully, forcing us to adhere to certain things. So it has created a negative perception because of people not really fully understanding. And how they were introduced to it also forms a part of that as well. Religion as well adds to this misinformation. A lot of African families are Christians, and it does not support them being gay, lesbians, any part of the LGBTQ community. So it's not that we don't like them due to the cultural differences. We don't like African American due to their ignorance, the level of ignorance. The culture, not so much, at least for me, because their culture has influenced a lot of things that can be found in Italy. Yes, rap in Italy is heavily influenced by African Americans, and you can find part of their culture there as well. You can find part of their culture here as influence. So it's not culture. A lot of it is ignorance, the level of ignorance that comes from African Americans believing they are separate from us. I don't know, maybe the colonizers made them to feel special by being captured. I don't know. But it's definitely not the culture. If anything, the cultures of differences is what made Africa be what it is, because we were so diverse in our cultures, so diverse in our languages, so diverse in heritage and history. So it's definitely 100%, I can tell you, not culture, even with the guy I'm about to share next.
I'm African, and I think I can take this one. So I'm from South Africa, and I feel like I'm well informed about things that are going on around the world, and also I've mingled with a lot of Africans from outside of South Africa, be it from Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Ghana, and a lot of other countries. So I think I'll take this one. I don't think Africans don't like African Americans. I don't think that's the case. I think the case is that African Americans and how they see themselves within the whole image of who an African person is based more on American ignorance. And it's not your fault. I don't think it's their fault. But let me explain a couple of things, right? A typical person that you can choose anywhere in the world, in the street, will know more about the world than a typical American, even though that typical American has access to this information online. Because Americans have an inward look. They feel like they're the best and everything outside their country doesn't matter anymore. For example, most of the sports that they play, they say they're world champions, even though they are the only ones who participate in that sport. There was a video that was trending not so long ago where people were being asked in the street, what show do they think brings the most views? Like, it's watched by the most people. They said the Super Bowl. It's not even in the top 5. It's not even in the top 5. And they were so shocked and they didn't understand it. So I don't think it's because Africans hate African Americans. It's because the African Americans, they have a sense of, they kind of like embroiled in the whole ignorance that comes with many American people. They're not well traveled. They don't understand the culture. The other video that I just saw today, someone was shocked that in Africa we don't celebrate Kwanzaa. We don't even know what Kwanzaa is. Yes, we know the word, but as a holiday, no, we don't know what that is. So it kind of like gives you this image that
they don't know much about the rest of the other Africans who are outside of North America. I'm talking about Africans who are maybe in South America, Africans who are in Europe, Africans who are anywhere else in the world. They only know mostly about African Americans who are like Africans who are African Americans. That's what I want to say. So when you're an African person and you're not African American and you see them trying to represent what Africans are, and it's not correct, but it's coming with that a taste of American ignorance, and it kind of like you're like, no, brother, that's not what we are. We are Africans, and you're not representing us well, or you're not representing us right. And it's probably starting to become a bit better now because a lot of Americans or African Americans are traveling outside of America. They're going to Europe and meeting other Africans who come from elsewhere. They're going to Africa and realizing that Africa is not this thing that they've been told, and they are not really the center of Africans or what it means to be an African. Like when you say African, we don't start by saying, oh, there's American Africans and then everyone else. No, we are Africans. There's many of us here. We are less diluted than African Americans who are in America, who most of them got their culture robbed, they got their surnames robbed, they got a lot of things robbed from them, in which the new version of them that they had to create out of nothing is definitely different from the culture that Africa is. The one thing that Africans have is respect. It doesn't matter from where, it doesn't matter where you look. Respect is based on Africans have that as interwoven in our own upbringing, in everything that we do. And we don't have that mostly in the modern African American culture. So there's a lot of differences which come up, and we're like, no, that's not us. Like fabric wise, we're not made of that material. So I think with time, when African American become more exposed to a lot of people who are coming from Africa, a lot of voices, a lot of people online on social media, they are kind of like starting to reflect, to realize, oh, okay, yeah, we are different from here and here, and that's why maybe we might not always intermingle well. I don't think it's hate. I feel like hate is a strong word. It's just that it's like, yeah, we're not the same. We're not made out of the same fabric, which is understandable because of a lot of things that were stolen from African Americans when they got picked from Africa and got introduced in a whole environment, and they had to establish their own culture and their own everything. So that difference makes each side want to stand for itself. You know, the Africans who are in Africa are like, we are like this. And the Black Americans are like, oh, you don't like us because we're not like you. But you like, the fact that we're not alike doesn't mean that we don't like each other. It just means that we're different. And that difference can easily be disintegrated if a lot of Americans first and a lot of African Americans were exposed to Africa, were exposed to what a person who's coming from Africa is like. And you see it when you meet in the streets. Like, for example, I live in the United Kingdom. I do meet a lot of other Africans from Africa and also Africans from the United States. And there's differences. You can see from, first of all, the way you represent yourself, from the way you talk to people, a lot of all these small details. But after a while, you realize that at the end of the day, you are still all Africans, and you can put your differences aside, in which that's what I feel like should happen. Is that both people should just travel, like just come to Africa, see how it's like. Meet other Africans in Europe, meet other Africans outside of America, because America is very self-centered, not just on the Black American part, but and a lot of other parts. And it's a fact. It's changing now because of TikTok, because of other social media, because they're starting to see that things are different and things exist outside. But as long as that still remains, that thing of you guys are just about you, your country, you're the best, whereas in reality you are not, then it will definitely have that in a sense to say, oh, okay, you know, there's that taste of ignorance about anything that's going on outside of your country. And also, then as an African, I'm like, you don't represent me because you don't even know me. You understand what I mean? But when I see a lot of people traveling to Africa, and then you start to hear the stories, you realize that there is a lot that was taken away from them, in which they didn't even know that they didn't have.